Okay, so I think it is crack of 7 o'clock, so I think we're ready, and we've got the indication that Westman does have us all live now, so that's excellent. So welcome to March. It's the 1st of March already. Time continues to slip along, which is probably a good thing in COVID times, and so we're underway with our next agenda, which may be one of our last virtual meetings. If all goes well, it will be our plan to probably gather safely back in council chambers for the meeting of March 15th. But stay tuned on the verification of that. So further ado, first item of business, Madam Clerk.
Roll call, Your Worship. I've taken the roll and all members of council are present.
Very good, thank you. Next item, please.
A motion to adopt this evening's agenda, Your Worship.
Motion, please. Moved by Councillor Chaboyer, seconded by, can't see everyone. Somebody just say Councillor Fawcett.
Yep.
Thank you. And any changes or additions to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll call for the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next item, please.
Confirmation of the minutes of the regular meeting held February 16th.
Moved by Councillor Cameron, seconded by Councillor Parker. Any errors or omissions? Okay, not seeing any. We'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Next item, please.
Under the order of presentations, we were to have the senior election official give us an update on the Meadows Waverley Ward by-election. Unfortunately, Danielle is ill and not able to attend, so she has asked me to provide that information. Okay, so thank you. With the resignation of Councillor Lareggio at the end of January, we have set a date for the by-election for the Meadows Waverley Ward, and that will be Wednesday, May 5th, 2021. In order to run as a councillor, there are certain eligibility requirements. You must be a Canadian citizen. You must be at least 18 years of age on the date of the election. So that is by May 5th, 2021, you must be 18. You must be a resident of Manitoba. You have to be a voter in the municipality in which you're seeking office. And if you are an employee of the municipality or one of the regional bodies such as the Planning Commission or Conservation District, you would have to take a leave of absence if you wish to run for your council. To qualify as a voter, you must be a resident or property owner in the municipality for at least 6 months before the election. So that cutoff date would be November 5th of 2020. You must have owned property by November 5th. You cannot run if you are a reeve or councillor in another municipality. You are a school trustee. You're a member of the Legislative Assembly or the Senate or the House of Commons of Canada. If you're a provincial judge or justice of the peace or a judge on the Court of Queen's Bench or Court of Appeal, or if you have previously been convicted of an election offense or failed to pay a fine after being convicted of other offenses under the Municipal Act or any other act, you are disqualified from running. With the call for the election, all candidates, the requirement that was introduced in 2014 is that candidates must now register with the senior election official before they can accept any contributions or spend any money on their campaign. And that form is available from the senior election official or her designate. And registration starts tomorrow, March 2nd, and runs right up to March 30th of 2021, which is the close of nominations. Candidates are required to set up a campaign account at a financial institution, whether that be a bank or a credit union. And that account is to be used only for election expenses, election purposes. And at the end of the campaign, they are required to submit a report to myself as the city clerk. The nomination period for potential candidates will start on Wednesday, March 24th, and ends on March 30th. So papers can be filed on the 24th, 25th, 26th, and we take a break for the weekend, and on the 29th and 30th. And we do require that you make an appointment with the SEO to file those papers. They must be filed in person, either by the candidate or their official agent. And that will be done here at the election office at Civic Administration Building at 410 9th Street during our regular work hours, which is 8:30 to 12 p.m. and 1:15 to 5 p.m. Those nomination papers can be obtained by contacting the SEO at 204-729-2236 or emailing. Our email address is brandonvotes@brandon.ca. Papers have to be signed by at least 25 voters of the ward and must be accompanied by a statement of qualification. And the person who signs the nomination papers must be on the voters list for the Meadows Waverley ward. So a distinction there, you do not have to live in the ward to run as councillor, but to sign the nomination papers, you do have to be a voter of the ward. So eligibility for voters. Only in this particular case would Ward 5 residents or non-resident landowners in that ward be allowed to vote in this by-election. If you're not sure what the ward boundaries are, you can contact our office. This information will also all be available on the city's website. In order to vote, you must be a Canadian citizen. That's not a landed immigrant or permanent resident, but a Canadian citizen. You must be 18 years of age on election day, and you must be a resident or landowner of the ward for at least 6 months as of the election date. So again, that's November 5th, 2020. There will be several voting locations set up for the by-election. One at Richmond Park Church at 1525 26th Street, one at First Baptist Church at 3881 Park Avenue, and a drive-through site at the Keystone Center at the southeast parking lot. We will also be working with Hillcrest Personal Care Home to provide voting opportunities for their residents, as that is one of the health facilities in that ward. Voting hours are from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., again on Wednesday, May 5th, and eligible voters can determine which voting location they want to vote at. There's no specific voting location. You can vote at any of the three I mentioned above. We have our voting system designed so that if you vote at one of them, it is indicated on all the voting lists across the ward. So there's no chance that you'd be able to vote twice. There will be an advanced voting opportunity on Thursday, April 29th, and that will be here at City Hall from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We're also encouraging voters to consider mail-in balloting to reduce physical attendance at the polling days. And those applications can be made either in writing or in person by mail, and they have to be received by no later than April 30th. So in order to vote, you will be asked to produce identification before you're given a ballot. So please bring with you one piece of photo identification that's a government issue with your name, address, and photograph on it, such as a driver's license or passport. Or you can bring two other documents that would provide proof of identity and address. We will have several protocols in place due to the COVID situation, including physical distancing. Everyone will be required to wear a mask. There will be hand sanitization stations, and the shared surfaces will be sanitized after each vote. There will be a single point of entrance and exit to prevent congestion, and we will be utilizing plexiglass barriers. So all of this information, as well as any additional info, will be available on the city's website at brandon.ca. You can start looking in the paper for notices. I believe the first one will be published on Thursday in the Brandon Sun. And again, if you need further information, you can contact the SEO at 729-2236 or email brandonvotes@brandon.ca. And I would note that with the election being May 5th, we are hoping to swear in the new councillor by the May 17th, 2021 meeting. And with that, I'll turn it over to you for any questions.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. That was a very thorough amount of information. There's certainly a lot of details there, and we are certainly very hopeful that we'll get a good number of people that are interested in this election. I always say that by-elections are kind of a golden opportunity for people that are maybe uncertain if they want to make that commitment. Normal elections, you're making a 4-year commitment to be on council, and this will be a year and a half term to finish out the balance of this term. So certainly a great opportunity to kind of get your feet wet or kind of test drive it. And certainly, for my own part, would certainly be hoping that we get a good number of candidates interested, and certainly a good diversity. Especially, we love to see a greater diversity in terms of gender balance. Poor Councillor Chaboyer is representing all women on our council, and we'd certainly love to see more female candidates consider this. So we will open up the floor for questions that any member of council may have of Ms. Iwazic, who's happily filling in for Danielle Carrier, our senior election official, although Heather's done it many times herself, so she's quite conversant with this. Again, it was a very thorough presentation, so it probably doesn't leave anything. Did you have your hand up, Councillor Fawcett? Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, just to let people know, if they are interested, of course, they can contact any existing councillor or previous councillor to get a bit of feedback and a bit of what expectations are. At regular elections, we do that. We actually usually have a former councillor discuss sort of expectations in that, whereas a by-election, we don't do that. So open invitation to anybody that is interested in running to contact any of us, just to get feedback on what sort of expectations are that. So.
Very good point. Thank you very much for adding that in, and that is a very valuable opportunity. And I know any councillor would be happy to spend some time with anybody that was interested to just kind of give you the ins and outs. So thanks for bringing that up, Councillor Plaza. I wasn't seeing any other hands up.
I believe Councillor Barry has his hand raised, Your Worship.
I think it might have just been left up, but
okay.
If you had a question, go ahead, Councillor. Yeah, I think he just left it up from the last vote. So. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions, so motion to receive the presentation would be in order, please. Moved by Councillor Cullen. Go ahead. You're muted, Councillor Cullen. You're on mute, Councillor Cullen. If you're
there, we go. Are we back? Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to move that the presentation by Heather Iwazic, our senior elections officer, or acting at this point, with request to the with respect to the update on the Meadows Waverley Ward by-election be received.
Thank you. And seconder, please. Seconded by Councillor Barry. Any discussion on the motion to receive? Not seeing any. Ready for the question then? All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. Next item, please.
The order of committee reports, Your Worship. I'm not aware of any, but it could be a verbal.
Again, we weren't given advance indication of committee reports, but sometimes there are some committees that recently met, and so we'd be glad to take those now. And I don't believe I'm seeing any. Councillor Cullen, your hand is still up. I don't think you. Thank you. Okay, I don't believe we have any. So move on to the next item, please.
The order of inquiries, Your Worship.
Inquiries. I know we've got a couple. Councillor Barry, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. I would like to inquire with administration, are the applications available online yet for people who were wanting to apply for the sump pump backwater valve program at the City of Brandon that was passed during budget deliberations. I've had some people inquiring. They've been looking online and haven't been able to find anything, so I said I would just follow it up with an inquiry tonight.
Very good, thank you. And I think Mr. Hammond, acting city manager, does have a response ready for us, at least the beginnings of one. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So this response has been provided by Patrick Pulak, the General Manager of Development Services. We in Development Services are still ironing out the details of this program and when it will be implemented. We will know more by next council meeting. At this time, we will take this matter under advisement with a full report to council forthcoming.
Thank you very much. So I think we will, this is an important one. It'll be good to have that information. So if there's a report on the council agenda, that would be fine. And if not, we would just have an additional update during inquiries, because I think it is important to get this information out to the public. So thanks for bringing that up, Councillor Barry. And I think we had Councillor Lupke. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Myself, like many other residents, try to get outside and do some activity while we're kind of in a lockdown. And one of the things to try to do is go out for a walk. And in my area, with the walking paths at Rideau Park and down by the CP tracks, they weren't cleared of snow on Saturday after we got the snow overnight Friday and Saturday morning. Weren't cleared of snow on Sunday, and finally got to about noon today. And I'm just wondering why we would not have gotten out to clear our walking paths and sidewalks over the weekend rather than waiting till today.
Thank you very much. And I think Mr. Hammond probably has a response for us.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Broom is online and he's prepared to speak to this topic.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Broom, go ahead there if you're on.
Good evening, Your Worship, through yourself to Councillor Lupke. The snow accumulation Friday evening into Saturday was 8.6 centimeters or 3.4 inches based upon the airport reading at Brandon Municipal Airport. Based on our current snow clearing policy, sidewalks and walkways are cleared after a P1 snow clearing event, as the accumulation was not greater than 5 inches or 12 centimeters. I know it was very close. Snow clearing efforts were not deployed over the weekend. Should this have been, say, December, early January, we probably would have sent the plows and the loaders and the trackless machines out to do walkways at midnight instead of 8 o'clock this morning. Should council wish administration to amend this policy, we can review it and then we could bring back to council at a later date. I do know in the past we've gone out and did walkways and we've been criticized a little bit because the walkways were done before the streets, and we were just at that border line whether we make that call or not this time.
Thank you. Councillor Lupke, was there a second part to your inquiry earlier today?
There was. I don't think it's necessary for this, Your Worship, but I would just add, like, I think as council, we had kind of given direction that we felt it was important during the health restriction time to make sure that our sidewalks and our walkways were cleared for outdoor activity. And, I guess maybe it was my mistake where I didn't feel like we were going to adhere to our black and white policy like we have in past years. If we need to adjust that policy for 2021 during the pandemic, I'm certainly willing to give notice tonight to do so. But I don't think that's necessary. I think we just need to be a little bit more aware of the situation we're in, and that we shouldn't be so black and white on that policy like we have been in the past.
Through your worship.
Go ahead, Mr. Broom.
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Lupke, absolutely. We can talk about it with Pam and crew for sure.
And Mr. Hammond, did you have something to add there?
Yeah, I was just going to add, Your Worship, that this policy is an administrative policy, so we can take a look at it internally. And I just wanted to note, in case it wasn't clear from Mr. Broom, that our intention was to deploy the sidewalk snowplows and sanders. That was done this morning. But as Mr. Broom noted, that wasn't done on the weekend. The intent in this case was to deploy early this morning.
Yeah, no, sorry, through your worship to our acting city manager, I totally understand that, and that's my point. I just kind of felt it should have happened, if not Saturday, certainly by Sunday. That's just my feeling, and I thought we had kind of given that direction to make sure that it was happening during these health restrictions. That it just felt to me like it was something that we could have bent a little bit on the black and white of the 12th Senate.
Thanks. I think Councillor Desjardins may have his hand up as well, so go ahead if you do.
Well, through your worship, thank you. Although I will comment on this inquiry, it's actually an additional inquiry. So if somebody else had an inquiry before me, please let them go ahead.
Yeah, you would be next, but just maybe hang off. We'll just make sure we finish up Councillor Lupke's inquiry first. So I think we'll certainly administration will take another review of this, Councillor Lupke, and you're correct. I mean, this was certainly the intention of council to want to sort of up the ante, so to speak, this year. And by and large, I think administration have done a good job throughout the winter up till now, and then this was probably a day later than it could have been. But we'll have them kind of review that, and maybe send an email back out to council to just sort of overview the policy there. Hopefully we're not going to need to use it much more, but we know that kind of all bets are not off until at least May long weekend, so we better continue to be ready.
Okay,
Thank you for bringing that up, Councillor. Thank you. And now we can swing over to Councillor Desjardins. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, thank you for your worship. And I was gonna echo that. That notwithstanding that I completely agree with Councillor Lupke, and I'm glad that he brought it up. I do want to commend the city and administration for the work that they did this year in clearing those sidewalks in an expedited fashion, and I think that most residents really did appreciate it. Although this weekend was a sore spot, and so I was glad that Councillor Lupke did bring it to our attention. And the other one is, I'm not expecting an answer, and I know that the acting city manager has already received this inquiry, but this is something that's a bit of a sore spot for a lot of residents, and I think we deserve to get a response from Hydro, and that's with the myriad of strobing streetlights that we have in the city. And I know that we're not the only community that's struggling with this, but over the past couple of months, we've really seen an increase in the number of strobing streetlights and outed streetlights. And we were told when we were moving to LEDs that we were going to save a lot of money, it was going to be efficient, that they were going to last longer. And what I'm hearing from residents is quite the opposite, right? That we're seeing a lot of outed streetlights, a lot of strobing streetlights, and we're not sure if we're actually seeing the savings. So if we could get an informal session or a report back from Hydro in response to that, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Very good. That's a point well taken. I'm not sure if Mr. Hammond had anything to add at this point in time. I know that this did come up recently, but I'm not sure if they've gotten any new information from Hydro on this yet, but just give you the opportunity in case you did have, Dean.
No. Like the councillor said, this was forwarded to me earlier, but this is still a work in process, so we'll report back to council.
Thanks very much. Thanks for bringing that up, Councillor Desjardins. Although I thought it was a new light show out in front of Princess Park there the other day when I drove by. They at least are strobing in some kind of unison, or they seem to tie into the music in my car, so it was kind of interesting. But, so I'm glad you brought that up. Very good. Any other inquiries we may not have been aware of? Okay, thank you. Not seeing any others. We'll move on to the next item, please.
The order of announcements, Your Worship.
Any announcements this evening? Councillor Fawcett, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, through your worship. I'm just going to make a note here of the Honor 150 presented by Canada Life, recognizing 150 people from across the province who stand out for their role in making Manitoba such an amazing province. And these people were nominated by people in their own community. And there's 5 Brandonites that exhibited truly outstanding qualities. And the 5 that were recognized were Chris Heide, Ron Helwer, Tanya LeBuick, Catherine McLaren, and Ryan Pandolfi. So I just wanted to make note of that, and if people see them around, kind of congratulate them and recognize their community work. And we never really got the chance to celebrate Manitoba 150 the way we wanted to. So this is a small piece recognizing some community people, and yeah, I wanted to just make note of it. And hopefully we'll have a big Manitoba 151.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fawcett, for highlighting that. And that was just announced by the Manitoba 150 steering committee just in this past week. So timely that you were able to highlight that for us. And again, I know the Manitoba 150 committee is still trying to keep things together, and some projects that can go ahead late will go ahead, and some celebrations may still happen late. And so as you indicated, Councillor Fawcett, we're into Manitoba 151 already, and let's just keep being thankful we live in such a great province. So thanks for bringing that up. Any other announcements? Not seeing any others. Thank you. Move on to the next item, please.
Under the order of general business, Your Worship, the urban design review for 148 2nd Street, and I would note this matter was tabled at the February 16th meeting, and so we would need a motion to bring it off the table for council to consider now.
Very good. So step one, if we can have a motion to bring it off the table. Councillor Desjardins, seconder on that, please. Go ahead.
Yep.
And just seconded by Councillor Cameron, just to bring it off the table. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So now we're back to the item as though the hearing just concluded. So we won't obviously be hearing other matters. We did conclude the hearing at the time, and now it's up to council. I think some councillors wanted to be able to review the property a little better, and Councillor Desjardins, as the ward councillor, go ahead, please.
Yeah, through your worship, I move that urban design review application 0-01-20 to develop a duplex at 148 2nd Street with 2 garages facing 2nd Street be rejected. And further, should residential development of the property proceed, that the applicant design the building to have vehicle access from the back lane.
Thank you. Is there a seconder, please? Councillor Lupke, mover wish to speak?
Yes, I would, and thank you through your worship to council. I did spend some time down in this area, taking a look at the back lane, taking a look at ingress and egress, the amount of cars that were parked in that back lane, whether the developer had whether his concerns were valid, and while some of his issues, were something that we should look at and should consider. The fact of the matter is, there are several residents in that area using that back lane on a regular basis. That back lane is actually wide enough to accommodate an ingress and egress of cars. It's actually wider than the back lane that we use here on 14th Street, and I don't see that it's necessary for that parking to happen, or for that driveway to happen off of 2nd Street. So I'm actually in favor of going ahead and supporting administration's decision in this case, and that's why I'm willing to make the motion to reject.
Thank you for that. Other discussion? Councillor Parker, go ahead. Yep, Councillor Parker, you're up.
Okay, thank you. Your worship, I would echo Councillor Desjardins' comments. I too went down and made like there was an imaginary garage there and drove in and out quite easily both sides of the property. And so Councillor Desjardins bang on, there is lots of room to get in and out. That's not an issue. So there's lots of opportunity to design something that will suit the neighborhood a lot better. So I too would support the rejection.
Thank you. Other discussion? I'll just add in a comment or two, and like other councillors, I also did go physically by the site, and I am sympathetic. I think that the applicant there, I believe his name was Mr. Viborny, is very entrepreneurial and was proposing certainly a very good looking building, but unfortunately it just does not kind of match the kind of composure, the aesthetic, I guess, if you will, of the kind of the rest of the neighborhood. That's what we have the design guidelines for. It would, by my recollection, be the only dwelling on that block, and probably most of the blocks in that vicinity to have front-facing driveways and garages. So really not in keeping with the design guidelines that our planning team and the planning commission that previously heard this would like to have. And again, I know there are other infill designs similar to the one that the applicant did provide that simply have and I wouldn't necessarily suggest that the developer should just flip the plan around backwards, but certainly there are good looking designs where the garages are purely in the back, and the front of the dwellings look like the front of a proper house. So I think there could be an excellent development there by this developer with just a little bit of a different design, and will work well for everyone. So to that end, I'm also supporting the motion on the table. Any other discussion? I didn't see any other hands up, but I believe then we must be ready for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Next item, please.
Is a request for an extension to the funding deadline for the water treatment plant upgrade.
Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll put the motion on the floor here. So I move that the completion deadline extension request for the funding of the water treatment plant upgrade planning and design and chemical building projects under the Clean Water and Wastewater Fund be approved for submission to the Manitoba Strategic Infrastructure Secretariat.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Chaboyer, thank you. Mover wishes to speak?
Briefly, Your Worship, and then possibly either Mr. Pulak or Mr. Hammond can fill in, but this is essentially an extension as to the deadline for application to the wastewater fund. A couple things obviously come into play: COVID-19 and the flood threats in 2020, both set back timelines. So this would extend the deadline to the 21st of December 2021.
Thank you. And Mr. Pulak is on the line. Maybe he has something to add to that. If you do, go ahead, please.
I think Councillor Cameron covered it off pretty well. The only thing I would add to it is that there were two funding agreements with the water treatment upgrade. The first one was associated with the chemical building, which that funding has run out. This funding stream is related to the consulting component of the water treatment upgrade, and for reasons that Councillor Cameron alluded to, there was delay in getting the design complete. Under normal circumstances, these would just be an amendment to the original funding agreement and would just be signed off by the city manager. Changes within the Manitoba Infrastructure Secretary now requires us to have a council mandate supporting this as well. So that's why this is in front of council tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Pulak. Any questions or discussion? It's fairly much a housekeeping matter, but not seeing any, then I think we're ready for the question. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. Next item, please.
Is the Finance Department redesign, Your Worship?
Very good. Not sure. We probably have a presentation on this, which might be better in order before we ask for a motion. So was somebody prepared to speak on this? I imagine Mr. Hammond?
Yes, Ms. Rochelle can start, and then I can follow up if necessary.
Very good. Okay, I just couldn't see her on my screen here, so go ahead, please, Ms. Rochelle. I think you're muted yet there, Val. So. Technology is good when it works, but not sure if you can't get off mute. So she can't get it to unmute. So I don't know if, well, at least we could see you. I don't imagine you can unmute her, Heather.
Unfortunately not, Your Worship.
Okay, well, her report is actually quite copious.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I
Can
think
you
you're
hear
off now.
Val?
Try
Are you
now,
on
Val.
now?
The mute looks like it's off. Try speaking,
Oh,
Val.
there. That's not bad.
No. The mute was off for a second.
Might have to hit F1 on your computer, Val.
I'll try speaking.
Cue cards.
Okay, well,
Sounds like
we'll go ahead.
Sounds like we can hear clicking and stuff. I don't know if that's her or not. So I think that there are times where she might actually have figured it out.
Sorry, Val, I said F1. It's F4 that boots your microphone on your laptop, not your keyboard.
Okay, well, I think in the meantime, Ms. Rochelle's report is quite copious, and Mr. Hammond certainly is quite aware of it. So if you don't mind, Mr. Hammond, why don't you go ahead and in the meantime, Ms. Rochelle's going to try leaving the meeting and rejoining. Sometimes that straightens it out. So maybe you could start in, Dean, and then we can take questions, and maybe Val comes back in. So go ahead.
She might have it now. She's showing as unmuted. Oh, and she left. Okay, well, I'll start.
Yeah.
So, in a nutshell, I'll give you the high-level version of what we're trying to achieve here, and Ms. Rochelle can provide any details when she comes back in. Basically, this addresses three areas of concern The first was that the finance area is literally the last area in City Hall to be upgraded in any kind of meaningful and holistic way. And this was occurring prior to COVID. And that's not good, considering that finance is one of, if not the most customer-facing departments in all of the city. So the issues that existed before COVID was that the customer service area is very outdated. It does not allow for good customer transactions or good customer movements. When there's more than one customer at the counter, it's noisy for both staff and customers. There's a lack of privacy when customers are trying to have conversations of a private nature. The eye-to-eye contact between customers and staff is not good, especially when customers are standing and our staff are sitting. So that allows for potential intimidation of staff by customers. It would be much better if staff were at an eye-to-eye level. And with what we're trying to achieve here, this will allow for a third customer service workstation for those peak times when we do have a number of staff, particularly at June at tax time. So addressing the COVID concerns, obviously what we're trying to achieve is the proper separation of customers and staff. While we have temporary shielding in place, it works, but it's obviously awkward and not very it doesn't look good. We need something of a more permanent and of a better nature. This will allow for the proper placement of sanitizing stations. This will allow for proper customer movements into and out of the customer service area. And another thing we're trying to achieve is currently we had to rearrange the workstations for staff. Customers in the past had always been able to see customers when they approach the customer service area, and customers had been able to see staff, and now it's very awkward. Staff can't necessarily see when customers come up to the counter, and there's limited eye contact. The third thing we're trying to achieve here is to address accessibility concerns. So with the reorganization, even though there will be shields in place, we will have microphones in place to allow for better hearing and more private conversations. And of course, this will address people with hearing issues to be able to have better conversations. We're wanting to place customers at the same eye level as staff to provide a better customer service experience, and not to allow for intimidation either way, either of staff by customers or the other way around. And even though we do have a wheelchair access point at our current counter, it is not very good. It does not meet customer service, or pardon me, accessibility standards. And that's the one of the other things that we want to address with this redesign. And also note that with this redesign, previously approved by council was a plan to redo the flooring in the space, and that combined with what we're trying to achieve here will definitely bring the customer or the finance area up to a current customer service standard that we can all be proud of.
Thank you very much for pinch hitting. I think Ms. Rochelle is kind of logged back in and might be able to join us and round out anything you missed. Go ahead, Val.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship, and members of council. My apologies for the technical difficulties there. So, and thank you, Dean, for filling in there for those few moments. So, yeah, Dean has covered off a lot of what I was going to say, but I'll provide my presentation regardless. So, the Finance Department is requesting funds to redesign the department in order to accomplish 3 goals. The first is to improve functionality for the staff and customers and enhance accessibility features. Second is to incorporate permanent safety structures and protocols. And thirdly, to improve the overall appearance of the department. So the Finance Department is in need of a facelift. The customer service counter is outdated and has been pieced together or modified many times over the years. Portions of it are original to the building. and although accessibility modifications have been made, they are not adequate. The cutout portion of the counter for reduced height is small, just over 2 feet, and the recessed knee space is not sufficient. The current layout of the front counter, the customer service clerks are not at eye level with standing customers, which places them in a compromised position as they are seated and the customer is looking down at them. The desks are old and some are in poor condition, and when there is a need to move them, the building maintenance staff have to make sure that they're careful so that they don't fall apart. When COVID public health orders were issued, the department scrambled to ensure that protocols such as physical distancing were maintained while still providing a high level of customer service. With the relocation of workstations to accommodate physical distancing, the full staff complement is unable to be in the central workspace. Separating workstations, using filing cabinets and stanchions as barriers, and needing to use extension cords across floors has resulted in an unprofessional looking department. When City Hall first closed in May of 2020, the department had to shift to doing a lot more business over the phone. With multiple staff speaking with their customers at the same time, maintaining customer privacy and dealing with less than ideal acoustics is challenging. With the building being open to the public, we are now also dealing with customers at the counter having to speak through masks and plexiglass. And individuals with hearing impairments are affected even more. Having the workstations separated and plexiglass barriers in place is not without its benefits. Appropriate spacing and barriers are not just beneficial to keeping employees safe from COVID, but also from the spread of germs during normal cold and flu season. Having separation and barriers between workstations helps with the acoustics in the room and supports maintaining customer privacy. The proposed redesign includes 2 aspects: enhancements to the customer service counter and installation of cubicle-style workstations. Enhancements to the customer service counter will include permanent glazing, a microphone system at each customer station, including the accessible station, a barrier between customer service stations for privacy and distancing, raised task chairs to allow for serving customers at eye level, and a larger enhanced accessible customer service station. And as Dean mentioned, this solution will also allow for a 3rd permanent customer service station for those peak periods. Cubicle-style workstations will provide a safe environment and facilitate having displaced finance staff return to the main office area. The work areas will have clear upper panels to allow for open sight lines to the front counter, while at the same time providing an enclosed work area to enhance customer privacy when conversing on the phone. Thank you, and if there are any questions, I would be pleased to answer them.
Thank you very much to both of you, but well covered. So we will certainly take questions now from councillors, and then eventually we'll get to a motion. So if you would like to ask questions, please feel free to raise your hand. Councillor Chaboyer?
Thank you, Your Worship, through to the presenters. Where did the estimate come from? Did you get an estimate, or did you get quotes? Or because I know you've got a funding request for $177,000. Where did that number come from?
Through Your Worship to the councillor, we did work with a consultant to get some preliminary drawings done for the front counter, and that also included a Class C estimate for the costs. And for the cubicle-style workstations, we did put out a proposal with a caveat in there that if we did not receive approval for funding from council, we would not be proceeding with the project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Cameron, then Councillor Lupke.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Chaboy had my first question the exact same there. I was wondering with regards to the costing of it. I will ask one more question then if I could. Just with regards to, we've talked a lot about the sort of front-facing customer focus and making sure it's accessible. At the same time, are we on the back end? Is it going to be accessible if we were to have staff members that had accessibility challenges and that sort of thing? Is it a mirror image on the back that staff are be able to access that, should they have mobility challenges as well?
Through Your Worship, to the councillor. So, Councillor Cameron, are you referring to like the customer service clerks? Should they have accessibility or mobility?
Yeah. Yes, through Your Worship, absolutely. Customer service clerks or any of our sort of frontline staff, if they had mobility concerns as well, does this benefit them as well as the customer?
Through Your Worship, yes. We did a lot of consultation with our staff, specifically the two customer service clerks, and as well with our quality assurance individual in our department. And so the layout will be such that the staff can move from their sort of regular chair to a lower chair to serve the customer that has mobility issues. And so that area would also be able to accommodate a staff member with mobility issues.
Thank you very much.
Now, I'm not sure. I think Councillor Lupke had his hand up, but perhaps this question got answered, so it's down. Oh, go ahead. You're on mute.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, through you to Ms. Rochelle. I guess my question is, we're about just over a month from having passed our 2021 financial plan. I'm just curious why this was not originally part of the financial plan. As part of the reason it's coming to us tonight is because it wasn't part of the financial plan. Was there a delay in getting the estimates? I'm just curious why it wouldn't have been part of the original financial plan, being as it's so tight. We actually did our budget.
Through Your Worship, to the councillor. Yeah, unfortunately, we just weren't able to get, estimates in place in time to get it into the proposed budget, and unfortunately had to wait until this point. We only just received the last bit of information as part of the proposal that we put out for the cubicles. I believe we got that a week ago.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I didn't see any other hands up. Take other questions if you had some, but I think it's fairly well covered off. So thank you very much, Ms. Rochelle, and for Mr. Hammond adding in as well. What is council's wish? A motion would be in order, please. Councillor Cameron, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that the funding of $177,000 for the Finance Department redesign be approved and be expended from the COVID Restart General Reserve in the amount of $88,500 and the Municipal Building Reserve in the amount of $88,500.
Thank you. Is there a seconder, please? Councillor Fawcett, will you wish to speak?
No, thank you, Your Worship. I think the presentation covered it well.
Other discussion? Not seeing any. I think we're ready for the question. I'll maybe just kind of add in, and I think probably all of us, a lot of these things come in sometime with sticker shock. I think if you've been around council in the city long enough, certain projects end up costing more than you'd like them to, and yet on the other hand, this is a pretty sizable area, one of the larger department footprints in City Hall, and as was indicated, has not really been refreshed for quite some time, and was also indicated, is probably the most customer facing. Practically everyone, unless they're doing things online, everyone ends up there paying a water bill, paying their tax bill, making inquiries. Sometimes, significantly confidential discussions may occur at that. Sometimes people have an issue with their water bill or their tax bill, or some changes that they need to make that are a bit confidential, and the area doesn't always really measure up. And similarly, lots been said about the accessibility. So overall, a lot of these changes did need to be made with respect to better COVID protection, and therefore half of it is being recommended come out of the COVID restart fund, and then the other half, as this is just generally improvements we need to be made, the other half to come out of the municipal building reserve fund. So I personally will support this, and it'll be nice to see that area refreshed at the same point in time that the flooring was scheduled to be redone anyways. So if there's not any other discussion, I think we're ready for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much, and thanks for administration for a very detailed report. Next item, please.
Also under general business, Your Worship, the appointment of the city manager.
Thank you. As everyone knows, the council's work and that of the personnel committee just wrapped up, and we made an announcement on Friday of the newly selected candidate that will become our city manager on April 26th. And given that we had a council meeting so soonly after the announcement, it was appropriate to be able to formalize that in the form of a motion. So it's a motion available, and someone who wanted to make that motion, I'd be grateful if you do so. Councillor Cullen, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that in accordance with Section 125 of the Municipal Act, Mr. Ron Bowles be hereby appointed as the city manager for the city of Brandon effective April 26th, 2021.
Is there a seconder, please? Was that you, Councillor Parker, or Councillor Chaboyer? I'll take her there. Mover wish to speak?
Thank you, Your Worship. As you know, we've been going through the process. The Personnel Committee went through over 50 applicants, narrowed it down, and then the entire City Council was involved in the last election. Again, I believe that the due diligence has been done, and extremely happy that we now have a candidate that we're bringing forward and accepting as the new city manager, and I can't wait to have him come aboard and be part of the team.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? I'll just echo that. Councillor Fawcett, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, through Your Worship. This is really exciting, and thanks to the Personnel Committee for doing that extra work. And then I'm sure you'll acknowledge it as well, Your Worship. But on behalf of council, we certainly want to recognize Mr. Hammond, who has been in as the acting city manager for probably a lot longer than he thought, we thought, and such. And to use a sports analogy, which Dean will not understand, he's one of our best players we've got. We asked him to play another position for a long time, and he did an excellent job at it. And we're really, really appreciative of that. And, I hope that he finds just wearing one hat shortly to be a lot more comfortable. And we look forward to the continued work with Dean. And on our behalf, again, thank you. You kept us going steady. And the whole COVID thing, why not, hey? Deal with that.
Thank you, Councillor Fawcett, and I think that he did understand the sports analogy because we get a little kind of hand clapping gesture in the little icons that are provided, and indeed I was going to add that in as well, and we won't belabor it, but it was certainly primarily due to COVID, a longer period of time with an acting city manager. It was certainly finally came around to getting the process underway, and we're able to successfully conduct it with the COVID restrictions and using all of the virtual platforms that we now have available to do interviews and the like and whatnot. But certainly, I think for all concerned, it would be good to provide that sort of degree of certainty and stability into the organization. And again, Mr. Hammond does continue on soldiering on, as we put it, in that acting capacity, and we're extremely grateful for that. So thank you very much, Dean. And any other discussion before we call the question? Seeing none, call for the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Next item, please.
Under the order of bylaws, Your Worship, bylaw number 7298, which is a closure and conveyance of the north-south lane located east of Grandview Street and south of McTavish Avenue.
Very good. Is that, whose word are we out here now? Is this, is that Councillor Chaboyer? I thought so. Go ahead.
Okay, I move that bylaw number 7298 to close and convey the north-south lane located east of Grandview Street and south of McTavish Avenue East be read a first time.
Thank you. A seconder, please. Councillor Brown. Thank you. And again, first reading just gets the process rolling. We don't debate these, so we're going to call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Next item, please.
Giving of notice, Your Worship.
Any giving of notice this evening? Seeing none? I thought maybe Councillor Desjarlais' daughter was going to make a giving of notice there. Oh, here she comes. Next item, please.
A motion to adjourn would be in order, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Barry, seconded by Councillor Chaboyer. All those in favor? You can vote on behalf of your dad. Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much, all.